Today on What Went Wrong? What went wrong with what went wrong? Hi, I'm Brett Mauser, and I've made over 40 of these episodes. Just over 100 with just you and I.
I know, right?
Not to mention all the other guests that
Who
we've had
knew?
on. Today we're going to talk a little bit about our What Went Wrong series. I thought that'd be an interesting little close to the 2021 season. This will be our last episode of 2021.
Really?
Yeah, and we'll see how things progress in 2022, if we'll keep doing it here, what kind of changes we might make. I'm going to be contemplating over the next month or so, where it's going to go from there. So, but today we're just going to talk about some of the things. I mean, we watch the episodes afterwards and whatnot, and I've got to sit there and edit them, and we'll talk a little bit about the things that bug us that we've done, or little errors that pop up. I will say one of the biggest issues that I've run into, or the most impactful, this thing right here, when it runs out of battery power in the middle of an interview, and then I've got to use the audio, the audio from the cameras.
Management is another huge fundamental part of filming.
Because this is just you and me. There ain't nobody else here. Sometimes there's other guests waiting in the wings or whatever, but typically, normally, we just have a camera over here and a camera back here. Put the recorder on there, and that's why every now and then you'll see me looking over, back this way, and I try to be, kind of slick about it, just to check and see where we are on time, and
Right.
make sure it's still recording and whatnot. But fortunately we have 4K cameras, and that's why I'm able to just shoot wide and then push in and get other things, because in this camera over here, we got this light right over here that's causing sort of a glare. But when I edit it, I'm going to be cropping you out, and kind of just, well, not out, but cropping in on
Jeff's
you, so
just
we
gone.
just don't see that. And there'll be times the batteries just run out on the camera. So but the recorder is the toughest part,
right?
Because I don't always pay attention to this. I'll pay attention to the cameras.
Right.
So that's one issue that always pops up. And then for me, it's the editing. Putting it in together.
I probably don't help a lot with that, because one of the problems I do is I have a way of speaking. I have a way of communicating, which
cut to montage.
and that little what a he is. You work with nothing but mousy. How the do these people exist? What a pathetic little that little brain is. Jeff's out of control. Bleep, 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 bleep.
And yes, for YouTube, I bleep them out, but on the What Went Wrong site, uncensored.
Just let 'em
So
in.
if you want to see what's underneath those beeps, jump on over to notsosane.com.
I know I have a problem. I know. There's a joke about it that, I was in the military I left home when I was 17, and when I was up at Texas A&M and the National Guard, and then I went to the regular Army for a while. And I got out of the Army just long enough to move from Germany to Florida, started flight school, and then worked for a cargo company. It was my very first company I worked for, flying old beat-up cargo 727s to South America, which you can imagine the kind of guys I was hanging out with. Basically the same nut jobs and lunatics I was in the military with is who I'm driving around. And then I went to work for an actual airline, a regional airline, flying out of Detroit, Northwest Airlink. And so I had passengers at that point. Well, I'd never had passengers before. I had boxes, And so I'd gone from the military to flying boxes, and of course my language hadn't changed at all. And now I'm like, there's people on board the airplane. I probably can't be saying to everybody, "This is your captain speaking. Sit the down and shut the up and hang the on." Probably can't do that. Or if you want to use it for the YouTube, I probably can't say, "This is your captain. Sit the bleep down, shut the bleep up, and hang the bleep on." Probably can't do that. So I kind of tried to modify my language, but it never really took.
No.
I tried. Well, I tried the cussing in Chinese for a while. Have you heard I'm told the story about cussing in Chinese. Turns out, even though if you're cussing in Chinese, if you're in Detroit, because if you've ever been to Detroit,
The hub.
it's a hub for, at the time, the airlines, all the places that we had 5 departures a day to Japan and then China, you know. And so if you've ever been to Detroit, listen to the announcements. They're in English, Japanese, and Chinese. There's no Spanish. It's English, Japanese, and Chinese. So if you cuss in Chinese, turns out there's a lot of people there who can understand you, as I discovered. And so I kind of tried to do better and whatever else. Well, then I started flying freight again. I've been flying freight now for another 6 years. Well, I've gone back to, you know, because I'm hanging out with those guys again, you know. And so then
Well, then just hanging out with you and I, you know, just in general.
we've been together. We've been together. we've been hanging out together for 30 years. It's not like, I mean, and you've being at Kingwood, I wasn't the most, you know. My language was not suitable for church most of the time. I had to definitely modify it. But it got worse because I started hanging out with. I mean, there's certain people I was in the military with where cussing was an art form, and these guys were amazing. There was a couple of guys there who could string together cuss words in a way that seriously might make you cry. It's like, it was beautiful. Oh my God! I mean, Arlie Ermy kind of expertise and that kind of stuff. And so I apologize because it's just, I know, and I'll get excited about something. It's not even when I'm excited. Sometimes just everyday conversation, when the F word fits in there, it's going to go in there. And I can't really help that. I can, but I just don't bother to stop it. And so that's one of the things, if I could say what went wrong, is I need to stop doing that to you because you have to go through and clicking on a thing and Jeff says F word from here to here and you have to beep out the thing. I know that makes it complicated. And it's there comes a time when I'm driving home and I'm like, oh. I said the F word like 72 times in that last episode. I need to stop doing that. Because there's Brett going, I can't even put this on the thing, Jeff. I can't. I don't even know what to tell you. Okay, so there's my little mea culpa. I need to stop doing that.
Well, once YouTube kicks us off and we no longer
Well,
have a
who
YouTube channel,
cares?
and we'll just be on Not So
You
Sane.
can go back to freight speak there, Jeff. No one cares at that point.
All right, those were a couple of mine. I'll come back with some others, but I'll give you an opportunity. Is there, you know, would that?
That's a big one
That's
for
the
me.
big one for you.
I have weird vocal patterns where a lot of times I'll be trying to say something and I'll like I call it roadblocks, where I'm headed down this path, but then what I'm trying to say just doesn't. So I have to so I'll do this a lot. Well, I'll be talking and I go, and then I'll have to jump over to the next track. I do that all the time, and that's always been my vocal pattern. I've just kind of have this thing where I try to relate things and make them understandable because there's a lot of stuff that I know and that I do that doesn't make any sense to anybody. And so if I try explaining things certain times, I have to stop because it's not working out. And so I do that all the time.
It's weird you say it because I have this weird thing. I mean, when I'm on here, I've probably done it a couple of times just now. Is I'll stutter, stammer a little bit, and I'll like right now just trying to grab what to say, and I'll have some ums and a lot of ands, and I'll be struggling to what to say, and it's weird because then I'll watch like the Project Veritas interview that I did or an interview that I just did yesterday, where I don't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm just speaking straightforward, blah, 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 and I don't have those pauses. There'll be a moment where I'll be looking up to try and grasp what the next thing is, but I don't have those filler spaces.
Right.
I don't have the stammering and the stutters.
Right.
I guess it's a Jimmy Stewart in me. No,
Yeah.
no, why don't you go over there and swing for the moon? I guess maybe that's where it comes in, but I don't know whether it's a fact because I feel like I'm thinking the exact same speed. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when I'm watching these episodes, it's like, I'm trying to think real fast. I'm trying to figure it out. Right. But I'm thinking twice as fast on those interviews because I'm trying to get the point across and in a fairly valid way.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah.
I don't know why here I have more of that stuttering and that stammering and that stuttering. Stuttering, stammering.
Stuttering.
And those and
the stuff.
Doubling back on my words, saying repeats it. But then those other things where I'm talking to a news reporter or something like that or whatever, I don't have that. It's weird. I don't know why that's the case.
And I have the same thing where, you've had the public speaking training. I mean, you did
I teach public speaking.
well, you did the acting and debating squad in Kingwood, which of course was renowned. These guys, for those of you who don't know, the Kingwood acting debating squad seriously beat everybody all the time. It was actually, we felt bad for the other schools, really. We're like, God, you got to go beat everybody again, because every time we turned around, CADS came back with first divisions, and CADS came back national champions. CADS came back state, and just all the time. So you guys were really, really, really good. And so you had a very good pedigree when it came to public speaking, and I knew that, And I could tell whenever you were, between the two of us, I've always said that you were the much better speaker. And if I had to choose between two of us to talk to somebody, you. I would, because
I'd throw that. I'd say it's a scenario type situation.
Maybe.
I think you can elaborate so much more. I'm so much more of a this is it, blammo, and I leave it alone. And you've got stories and ways that you can bring up analogies and whatnot.
Part of that's because of this. Everything I've dealt with most of my life has been very technical or weird or strange that a very small percentage of the population can grasp.
Yeah.
Without an analogy, without stuff. Plus, all my friends who call me up and ask me questions when something happens.
Yeah, because a lot of the time I'll just let you go.
Yeah.
And
I wish you wouldn't quite as much. I mean, if I had to say another little thing of what went wrong, I wish Brett would definitely go.
And I've started doing that a little bit more.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You were starting to go into something like, I think on the road trip about the how we packed up, and I brought these crates in, and I was like, I don't think.
Yeah, and once again, the logistics part of my brain is like, well, you gotta understand, and people who logistically minded is like, no, it's very important. You have to know. Because if you don't pack it correctly, you're screwed. It has to be packed exactly. And so the logistics brain is like, this is part of the story. It is not important to the story what we're talking about, but my brain goes there. Anyway, but that's definitely one of those things where you have this ability, I would say, in training, if you will, practice, understanding of how to make your point. Excuse me. How to make your points, how to get across what you want to say. Whereas my way of doing it is very, very roundabout. I always go around the bases before I do something else. Sometimes the stories that I tell, in certain situations, I've had to give so much backstory to make the story make any sense. Well, the other day when I had to do my my assessment, I was talking to one of the doctors one time, and she was talking about, I was in A&M and was in the military and then other stuff, and I says, now I have to tell a story or the next part doesn't make any sense. She's like, okay. It's like, because if I just tell you I was in the Army, went to college, was in the Army, I was a dancing elephant at Disney World, and then went to the artillery, there's that little, wait, what? You see? And so I had to tell a story. Or that, if I go Army, Texas A&M, Army, dancing elephant at Disney World, Army, flying, people are like, I'm sorry, did you say? I was like, because if I just tell you, well, I accidentally got a job at Disney World. Well, that doesn't help anything. That makes it worse. What do you mean you accidentally got a job? And I have to go, okay. And so then I have to tell this whole big goddamn 10-minute story, right? Because I have to go around the bases, because a lot of the stuff that has happened to me doesn't make any sense if I just say it like that. So a lot of times I feel like I have to tell these stories, but then if I just tell you, if we're talking about Disney World, and I go, back when I was a dancing elephant. And people go, what? Yeah, about the, dancing elephant, Disney World, Animal Kingdom. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, okay. And so we have to back up, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. And I know I have that tick. I know I do that. I've got lots of ticks anyway. Some people say that that's how some of my PTSD manifests, is this and doing that and the other stuff. And I'm always doing that. I've always had that. So I don't know if but some people say that's it. So I wish I could stop doing that.
I blink.
You blink?
When I'm talking, like right now, and it's not even a conscious thing. When I'm right now, no problem.
Yeah.
But when you start talking, I'm blinking left and right. When I'm quiet, it's just that. Now, coming from a comm background, communications and nonverbal studies, I've got a master's in nonverbal, a master's in communication, but I focused in nonverbal deception detection, which is why I'm single. But
it is a cross we all must bear.
Yeah. But one of the reasons for that, which a lot of people say, well, if somebody, if somebody's blinking when you can tell they're lying or they're not blinking. That's not the truth. The thing is, if you're just talking and you're thinking, your mind is on other things, so it won't send the signals to blink. And that's why when I'm acting, especially even on camera, when I'm acting in the Innocent Saga or something like that, when I'm not talking or when I'm getting B-roll of somebody else or whatever, I'm blinking.
Yeah.
But when it comes time for me to deliver my lines, I just blink normally.
Huh.
And that's something that I'll do because I'll want to, when I'm editing, I want to cut a bit of your story out or something like that. And I got to sandwich them together, so I got to cover up that cut somehow. So I try to find a cut with myself to cut back to. I can cut to me reacting, but so often the time I'm just I'm blinking. So I don't know where that comes from. I've actually this week I bought some eye drops to see if that may help or whatnot. But when I'm not, when I'm doing this,
you got to wonder your actors and stuff like that you're dealing with if that's something they would know. Because I'm not an actor. I've never been to acting school. It's not something I know.
Well, it's not even just when I'm on camera. I mean, just in my regular life, I'm blinking all the time,
right,
unless I'm talking.
So you ever think that maybe that's one of those things for the actors, what went wrong is to understand, you must get your blinking under control, which may be a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But if it's distracting, it would be something that you knew. Now, honestly, apparently you haven't distracted me, because it's not like I'm like, why are you blinking so much? What the hell's wrong with your eyes? Are you okay? So that's funny. I never really noticed that before. So I tell roundabout stories and you blink too much. Well, there's worse things we could have going wrong, and we could be drinking and driving and stuff.
Well, continuing on sort of appearance, I guess another thing that I would be self-critical of, but this is the way I am in real life. When you and I sit down to these things, there's not a lot of pomp and circumstance. There's not a lot of I don't have a makeup person that's coming over and doing it. I don't have I wear a hat because there's been some times where I have not worn the hat. And I'm like, oh, the hair. I gotta wear the hat.
Yeah.
But I prefer not wearing my glasses, but I just wear the glasses because they're easy, and I'm tired of doing contacts, and I just don't care about that stuff anymore.
Right.
And I know people like Nikki are probably yelling and screaming from the other camera. You gotta look good. You gotta present yourself in the best light. And me, I'm like, I don't care. At this point in the game, I don't care. Because it's sort of like, to me, it's like the only reason to me, the reason to dress up or look fancy was because you're trying to peacock around and you're trying to attract a mate. Well, I don't want a mate. So it's like, I'm not big. And this is who I am. So, I guess you could say I could pay a little bit more attention to the clothes I wear, to, how I, whether I put makeup on,
in some cases that's a thing, but not for us.
Yeah. Better with the hair, keeping my beard better, because there's some times where I've been really scruffy around here, and then when I was trying to grow the beard out, I just looked like a disaster. But I was I'll still look at it going, but I look like yeah, who cares? It's not like it's gonna hamper my life existence or anything like that.
And when I come home, I usually just stop shaving. I've been on a leave for a couple months, and so I've got this thing's completely out of control, just because it's been so long since I've been able to have one. Because when I'm home for 14 to 16 days at a time, or if I could knock the months together, I could be over 30 days at a time. And honestly, this is about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It doesn't take me. This grows quick. I have very, very industrious facial hair. It goes nuts pretty fast. And so I was just
this does for me, but the sides don't.
And this is just kind of.
This takes forever, but this will come out in 3 days.
Yeah, this happens the way it is. And I woke up the other morning and it was just kind of like it was like crawling up the side of my. I was like, what the hell's going on? And I had to actually ask a buddy of mine. I was like, what do you do when you're? And he because he's got this big, beautiful, like Santa Claus beard thing going on. He's blonde anyway, so his hair is all kind of blonde. And he jokes about it that if he doesn't, he has to like comb it. Because he's got a long one. He says otherwise he looks like the crazy miner from the 1960s. You gotta go over there. The Indians are waiting at the pass. And his hair's all crazy like that. And I'm like, I don't. And I understand people who have the big glorious beards. Trey's got that the big beard thing going on. And I guess guys I was in the military with, and now they're out and they got beards and they do all kinds of cool stuff. I'm just not. I'm like you. This is kind of how we are in real life, which is kind of the point of why we do these. Is we don't really. I mean, the only thing we do differently than we normally do is, well, nothing.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, well, what do we do different?
No.
You know, I mean, before this, we went out to eat. This is basically the exact same damn thing.
Yeah. I mean, I like to wear the weird hockey jerseys. This is one of my Disney hockey jerseys, or the weird stuff, just because it's kind of a thing that I like to do. But as far as like getting doweled up to look pretty for the audience, this is who I think that's one of the things I like about these. One of the things I like about a lot of blogs or things that I've seen from guys is it is them being real. It is them just, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is what we talk about. You could be catching. It's why we have it at a bar.
Yeah.
This is what we would talk about at a bar. If you were to see us, if anybody was to see us having dinner, we'd be looking this way and talking this way about whatever we talk about.
Yeah.
You know.
Talking about appearance, I remember, I think it's been our journalism series where I had, well, it's one of my favorite shirts is just the black shirt because I just like the monochrome shirts. And basically, I dress exactly the same way I dressed in high school. So nobody looks back at my yearbook, oh, you had bell bottoms, oh, you had parachute pants. No, I had jeans and the same thing that I'm wearing today. But I had this one shirt, but the pockets, like the pocket lids or whatever, these little flaps. If you watch the journalism episodes, like there's going in different directions. Now, I remember when I was at Ken's, we were in a meeting and we were standing around, and my manager, my boss, actually, because they were like flapped like this in the middle of a meeting. He goes, "I just can't take this anymore," and I'm like, and everyone's looking around because he just basically felt me up, and I was like,
Anybody else see that? Just me? Okay.
So yeah, that became a thing.
Film at 11.
So yeah, it's just something that I don't care that much about, and I guess maybe I should, but at the same time, I'm like.
And once again, that's one of the things I like about this. That's one thing I like watching is I want to show the same kind of carelessness, I guess you could say, that we always have.
Yeah.
Is because look, what we look like is what we look like. I can't help most of this stuff. I mean, I was hit by a truck when I was 8 years old. I don't know how to fix any of that.
Technically you hit the truck.
That is true. and the truck started it. And so I ran into that son of a bitch and I taught it a lesson. Which is that 8-year-old faces do not do well with bumpers. But the point is, I can't really change any of that. I can't change who I am. Well, I can't change what I look like. The only thing I have control over is how I do what I do. And I think that the way we do this is one of the things I do like about what we do. Yes, I cuss too much. And yes, I probably could, do something. And I'm sure, like I said, Nikki's just like, what are you doing? I'm sorry, sweetheart. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. But that's one of the things I do like about this is because I appreciate honesty. I appreciate the sincerity of two guys goofing off and talking about stuff about which you're the area expert, as far as I'm concerned. As far as most people are concerned, you know a lot about what you're doing. That's why you teach it at two different schools. That's why you teach public speaking, because you are an area expert on it. And so I think someone who can be an area expert, who has information to share, who has something that other people want to know that is important, being as nonplussed and, unegotistical as possible, or even then showing the ego because you deserve it, not because you look pretty. I like that in somebody. I like that a lot.
Oh, I'm glad we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I think we're going that way there.
I know the last thing that I'd like to talk that I'll bring up is one of the what went wrongs, the chairs. Because when I first got the bar set up and everything, I had some cool little gray chairs, but something happened to them over the course of the episodes, and so especially the last 3 or 4 months, you'll watch people like you, or especially Kiki, where and Xavier is you'll watch you guys starting, and if you fast forward the episode, you'll see them doing because the chairs would start to push down. So by the end of it, they'd be like, hey Brett, how you doing? It's good to see you. Glad to be here. Thank you. So it would look so bad. So I'm glad we got new chairs in, and was able to take care of that.
Studio improvements.
Yes. But yeah, so if you're gonna talk about self analysis, What Went Wrong is a series about looking back on our productions and seeing what went wrong. It's only right to look back, do an episode on what went wrong, and contemplate on what went wrong on what went wrong.